What's up, everybody? Coming to you from the bathtub today. I do enjoy hot baths and just feeling a calling, a curiosity to riff a bit about non-duality, or what is commonly called non-duality. I kind of like the term transduality because non-duality sounds like it's referring to something that is not duality, when I would say what it really points at is to something that transcends and includes duality. Duality meaning an approach to life where you feel like a separate entity or separate observer in a world of separate objects, a kind of vast spatio-temporal world of separate objects where you're a small, separate being. And from the view of transduality, that perspective of being a small, separate being is one valid perspective that a person can take. It's included. It's a very common mode, a very common way that reality or being engages with itself. But from the view of non-duality or transduality, there are basically limitless other ways that being can experience itself, can explore itself, can be with itself, can dance with itself, and therefore awakening in this context that I'm talking about in many ways is a process of opening to a wider range of modes, a wider range of perspectives, of ways that being can be with itself, and to discover liberating possibilities through that exploration, because it turns out that there are some very liberating other modes, other ways of engaging that can be explored. And I was just kind of going deep into this today. I am often practicing Peter Brown's yoga of radiant presence, which is probably my favorite practice that relates to this entire exploration. Highly recommend Peter Brown's books and audios. There's about 80 hours of his talks on the Non-Duality podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Shout out to them. That's a great chronicle. So anywho, I'm often engaging in that practice, which is less like a practice and more like a playful exploration that feels fun, which is part of why I find it so genius as a tool in the toolkit. But yeah, for whatever reason, today was a day where I feel like I cut through deeper than I have been in recent times into that type of mode, or into that type of, not necessarily just one mode, but that type of exploration that is pointed at through the yoga of radiant presence. I noticed myself cycling through many different modes in my life naturally and finding my own natural center of gravity. And oftentimes it seems like my natural center of gravity at this stage of life centers on a very grounded human mode of being a father and being married and just bringing as much heart-centered presence as I can to those vocations, those sacred dimensions, sacred domains of my life. And yeah, at the same time, like I say, I practice this yoga, and today it cut through on a pretty deep level. And what that means, to get more into this, is the yoga is essentially a practice of getting radically honest about what you can know for sure about life. There's something really refreshing about this for me because I've always had a kind of philosopher or a skeptic inside of me, a questioner, a really curious mind that really wanted to, ask the question, what do we know for sure? What can we know for sure about what's going on here? And this yoga is a kind of bare bones meditation where we get super honest about the fact that there's almost nothing that we know for sure in any kind of absolute sense, especially in any sense that can be codified into language. This is really a crucial point, and this is one of the hardest things to convey because human beings are typically so thoroughly identified with language structures that it's very hard to get across this point that just because we have a word for something doesn't mean that we know what that thing is. Just because we've given something a name does not mean that we know what that thing is. Naming things is valid, it's useful, it's a beautiful tool, but any name, any definition is always going to be very partial. A name does not tell you what a thing is. Just because I can call this a book here, that doesn't say what it is. That says something about the practical usefulness of this formulation of energy, life stuff, mysterious, unknown, undefined existence goo. The function of it is that of a piece of literature containing linguistic symbols. I seemingly open it and place it before my eyes, and I can seemingly derive meaning from these symbols and conjure visualizations in my mind to be transported to other worlds, which in itself is incredibly magical. And yet, calling that a book does not really say what it is, because can the book be disentangled from being itself, from nature itself, from universe considered as a totality? Like Carl Sagan said, in order to bake an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. So being, universe, nature is a prior condition that is necessary for the arising of any specific pattern that arises within that context, such as a pattern that we call book or tree or body. Those words don't actually say what the thing is, because what the thing is an emergent property or an emanation of universe, of being, of nature, of actuality. And in order to really say what it is, you would have to say what being is. You would have to say what totality is. You would have to say what universe is. And you can use scientific jargon and say, well, it's a bunch of quantum particles, quarks, and whatnot bouncing around. It's mostly empty space. It's energy seeming to be coagulated as matter. But what do those words actually mean? Do those words actually say what it is? Or are those just names that we've given to other apparent patterns that we're noticing? Are those just names for things that we see when we examine being under a thing we call a microscope? We see different types of patterns, maybe quantum particles, and we give names to those things, but does that mean that we've actually discovered what those are? Or have we just given a name to another mysterious pattern within a completely mysterious totality that is undoubtedly here. That is one primal fact that seems to be indisputable. Let me know if you feel you have a way of disputing the fact that this is here, the presence of being itself. There is a presence here. There is an event taking place, let's say. Through this kind of bare bones meditation, this yoga of radiant presence, we actually are training ourselves, sensitizing ourselves to spend a lot of time intimately being with that primal fact, intimately being with here and now, being itself, being with the undeniable presence, which always shows up, fascinatingly, only here and now. We cannot find a past. The past is nowhere to be found. The future is nowhere to be found. Everything you've ever experienced has always shown up only here and now, hasn't it? You know, look in your experience and see if it's true. Don't just take my word for it. But this is a really astounding observation, actually. This is quite astonishing. All we've ever truly known is this nowness, this pure blank. You know, any word I insert there, this energy, this being, this reality, this nature, this condition, this event, any word I insert there cannot pin down what this is, cannot say what it is. Any word kind of evokes a different perspectival angle on what it might be, but those words can't say what it is. Even saying this is here, well, what is this and what is and what is here? Those words can't say it either. No words can say it. That's why the first line of the Tao Te Ching is, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. Got some of my daughter's toys back here. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. So 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, a wise man named Lao Tzu had already noticed this bare bones meditation, this bare bones fact about life, that just because we can invent a symbol that points toward a relatively consistent pattern that seems to show up within this presentation, this display, this bubble of awareness that we call life, does not mean that we've actually said what the thing is, because you can't draw lines around anything and disentangle it out from the totality, whatever this totality may be. Whether it's a boundless, infinite universe of sprawling light years, or whether it's more like a trans-spatio-temporal, eternal orb of awareness that is beyond space or time and is just existing within itself, exploring itself from apparently infinite angles, yet never fundamentally departing from itself, and is always just simply this here and now, this totality containing all that is, containing everything, being everything and no thing. Those are a couple different perspectives that can be taken, or maybe it's, both, neither, far beyond either. And yet, neither of those perspectives can pin down what this is, because again, it's just words. It's just words, and these words can evoke different flavors and can evoke different modes that are fun to play with. And I can recommend playing with the mode of now is all that exists. Play with that as a possibility. Try to prove for sure that there's anything other than an orb of awareness that is beyond space or time, and through which all of these various textures and flavors and apparent beings are continually drifting and shape-shifting. Always only appearing in the instant as a continuous, instantaneous appearing and then vanishing. Try to find the past. Try to find the future. Try to find over there. If you say like, oh yeah, I know there's something else over there behind my house or in the next town. Try to prove that without going over there. But then once you're over there, aren't you just still right here, right now? Aren't you still where you've always been? Right here, right now. The scenery has shape-shifted, but fundamentally you are still presence here now. So that's another really interesting perspective or mode to play with. This kind of idea that there's only this transcendent, eternal consciousness, and all appearance is essentially a dreamlike apparition passing through this this orb of energy, consciousness, being. And yet I would say that perspective can't pin it down either. That perspective, that mode, can be very liberating to play with, though. It can help you realize, it can help you get more bare bones, radically honest about what you really know for sure. And when you get really honest about the fact that you can't prove that there ever was a past, or that there is any future, or that there's any world out there, or that there's something going on over there in a place outside of your immediate awareness, that could be confronting. It could be disorienting. I don't recommend taking this practice too lightly. If you start to feel strongly existentially disoriented or solipsistic or depressed or nihilistic, I would recommend taking a step back. Feel welcome to reach out to me or find support in some way. I would recommend grounding down, doing calming nervous system grounding activities like bare feet on the earth, laying on the earth, doing slow, relaxing, deep, conscious breathing, taking a hot bath, sauna, cold shower, maybe go do a cleanse or a fast, an Ayurvedic retreat, clean yourself out, and return to those practices at a later time when you feel more stable, because it can be confronting and disorienting to realize that you don't know anything. In a very profound sense, a very deep sense, no one knows anything. No one can tell you. No one can really tell you what anything is, because again, to tell you what anything is, they would have to tell you what everything is. They would have to tell you what being is, what totality is, and that cannot be done because it seems like there's a quality of mystery or ambiguity, indefiniteness, or transdefinability that is baked into reality itself. Reality is too slippery, too close, too dynamic, too simple, too ever-morphing, too simultaneously complex, too paradoxical to ever be, and too nonlinear to ever be pinned down in something as linear and kind of two-dimensional as linguistic science. the medium is too low fidelity, you could say. And in another sense, you do know reality. You know it most intimately because you are it. You've never been anything else. You've never known anything else. You are nature. You are what some call God or divinity. Some people use, lofty superlatives because this nature, this event is truly astonishing. It's astounding. I mean, it's unfathomable that anything is here at all and that it happens to look like this and that it contains this kaleidoscopic array of infinite artistry and possibilities that are ever fresh, never before seen, cycling through themselves, continuously in full HD clarity with no lag time, and it can experience itself in an infinite number of mind-melting ways and dimensions, realms, possibilities. I mean, it's truly unfathomable. It can seem to reveal that it has this heart of eternal grace, this inferno of totalizing grace as its purest, innocent center point. Now, there can be astonishing mystical experiences that take place within whatever this is, and that has led people as well to use our most lofty superlatives to refer to it, such as God, Tao, divinity, Source, Christ, Brahman, Buddha nature. And they're always referring, though, to this presence right here now. What else could they be referring to? Presence is the primal and all-encompassing fact. You cannot get outside of presence. Nothing that has ever occurred has occurred outside of presence, as far as I can tell. Test this out. Has anything ever occurred outside of presence, outside of being for you? Can you fathom any way that could possibly occur? So being is the primal fact. And being has some truly astonishing transcendental qualities that lead some people to give it, these very lofty names and to relate to it from a place of devotion and from a place of humility, bowing down before it. And I find a lot of value in those types of ways of relating to it. If that calls out to you, I find devotion, surrender, humility, developing a personal relationship to it. It does seem to have the capacity to emanate forth as personal and super-personal faces of God, faces of nature, you can say, that you can develop a friendship, an allyship, a devotional relationship to, a sense of having a true lineage holder who can assist you with activities and healing and whatever else. But yeah, it's just really fascinating to notice that any word that you use refers to this presence, and that becomes really, really clear the more deeply you engage in spiritual practice, like the yoga of radiant presence, or bare bones meditation, or really any type of spiritual practice. Unity, wholeness becomes really clear. It becomes very clear that nothing is truly separate from being itself, this foundational, fundamental wholeness. It becomes clear that if you are touching or existing at any part of the ocean, you are touching the whole ocean. If you're on a beach in Tulum and you touch the ocean, are you just touching a part of the ocean, or are you touching the whole ocean? I would say you're touching the whole ocean, and I would say that even the most rarefied mystical experiences, the innermost essence of God, pre-vibratory stillness, radiance, formless light, samadhi, all these various types of special states that come and go, have they ever taken place outside of presence, outside of here and now, outside of being? I don't think that they have. It doesn't seem that they have, based on my investigation, and this is corroborated by many other spiritual teachers and sages from across the ages. So why am I telling you all this? Why would anyone want to explore this? Well, for one, some of us simply have this burning curiosity for truth and see truth as inherently valuable. We want to know the truth of our existence, and I would put forth that everyone has this deep down. I think as children we all have this curiosity, and then it gets kind of beaten out of us or conditioned out of us, or we become strongly pressured to accept our given tribe's perspective on the most fundamental questions, and we kind of learn to let sleeping dogs lie. But some of us, at some point in life, reach a point where those answers don't feel satisfactory anymore, or we're dealing with a lot of suffering, and something drives us to go deeper and to ask, is there more to life? Is there something I'm missing? What really is life? What is this that I'm experiencing? What is experience? What is awareness? What is consciousness? What is nature? What is reality? And I can put forth personally that though it might be confronting to address those questions, what am I? What is I? What is this that I'm calling myself? It can feel confronting, yet there are incredibly liberating fruits to be uncovered through that exploration. I would go as far as to say that the most precious jewels of existence, the 1000x, 10,000x, the infinity x on your kind of soul portfolio, are found in the realm of spirituality, in the realm of sincere and honest questioning. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone should go there. If you feel happy and content with your life as it is, you might not be karmically called to open up this can of worms at this time. And that's totally fine, because it can be a very deep and difficult journey at times. However, essentially, I'm trying to express that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Not to say that I've reached some destination. It's a continual unfoldment and unfurlment, but there have been pearls of beauty discovered in this exploration that are precious beyond words. It turns out that we're very fortunate that what this is, this beingness that we are, in my experience, is deeply trustworthy. It's deeply benevolent. It's doing itself in a profound sense. It's effortless in a profound sense. It's flowing like a river. It is weightless in a profound sense. It's unburdened. It's utterly innocent. It's all loving. It's peaceful. It is wholeness. It has space for everything. And yes, it contains suffering and pain. It suffers and it has pain, although the more deeply you engage this exploration, pain and suffering take on a different quality. You have more space for them. You see their poetry and their beauty on new levels. You see their karmic purpose on new levels. Instead of defeating you or making you bitter, they tend more toward cracking you open and initiating you into deeper levels of intimacy and heart-opened connection to life, heart-open presence with life. So there's hope, in a sense, is what I'm saying. There's hope in spirituality. It's not all just a bunch of hot air or nonsense or woo-woo. There are some approaches to this that are very bare bones, almost more scientific than science itself, because science has a tendency not to question its unquestioned assumptions that it is founded upon. It doesn't tend to question its own epistemology, its own philosophy of how things are known, how we can come to know things. And so it tends to be also lost in the labyrinth of its own definitions, often not realizing that those definitions are partial and do not actually say what a thing is. Just because you label something doesn't mean you know what it is. So, yeah, many in the world of science are kind of lost in conceptual fabrication, but science has a lot of beauty to it. Not trying to vilify science here, not trying to vilify anything. Things are as they are. And at the same time, it's still totally beautiful if you're called to it, to serve, to contribute, to uplift the world through sharing your unique gifts. That's beautiful, and I deeply encourage that. And at the same time, there's a way of making peace with reality as it is, and fascinatingly, in large part, that peace is discovered through noticing very deeply and clearly that you don't know what reality is. Because in order to experience something as a problem, you have to believe that you really know what it is. You have to believe you really know what's happening. So if you deeply, deeply see that you don't know what anything is and you don't know what's happening, and all you can really be sure about is this immediate presence of now, and you root your life there in that primal fact of what you can truly know and truly be sure about, then, I mean, that's a massive load off. That's a massive load off. Suddenly, instead of having to deal with a laundry list of problems in the, world out there, those, again, I'm not advocating for ignoring those. It depends on what your calling is. Maybe you're called to deeply involve yourself in those in various ways. I feel a deep calling to contribute and in service to the whole, service to the whole for the upliftment of all. And yet, rooting your life in this primal fact, this immediate presence, and admitting to yourself that you don't know what it is, it just radically simplifies things, because all you ever have to deal with is this moment now, and you see that in a profound, deep sense, the moment is already done. It's a done deal. It's doing itself. It already happened. Before you have any thought or conceptualization about it, the moment has already occurred. It's already accomplished itself. It's unfolding itself. It's doing itself. Everything is just doing itself, no maintenance required in a profound sense. And all you have to deal with is right here and now, this space of pure openness that, usually when we really dial things back and we just come to here right now, it's hard to find much of a problem. We're often actually addicted to creating problems because we kind of like drama on some level. It gives us a sense of meaning and something to struggle against and a way to define ourselves. And so we kind of identify with drama. But at some point, maybe we get tired of drama and we just want to rest. We just want peace. And when you come back to just this immediacy, this presence now, where you can't say what anything is, there's no problem with that, because you haven't even defined anything. You're leaving it undefined. And problems are another category, another defined category. So you haven't defined anything as a problem. You're just here with this blankness, this openness, this immediacy, which might sound kind of blasé, kind of milquetoast, kind of boring. But actually, when you drop definitions, the old becomes new, and you become more subtle with what is here. You become more sensitized, and you open to the radiance, the juiciness, the flow, the effulgence, the ever-shiftingness, the morphingness. You start being with experience as this kaleidoscopic array of ever-dancing textures and alivenesses and twinklingnesses and meltingnesses. Everything becomes more enchanted, magical, musical. So it's not boring. That's not to say boringness can arise, but generally, reality is much more fascinating. It's much more seductive. It's just kind of astounding that it's here at all, that anything is happening, that anything's being experienced. The more you relax your definitions, you realize that your definitions were, your solidified, reified definitions were creating this strong sense of separation, boundaries between things. And as you relax those, there's this innately felt, innately revealed sense of wholeness. Being, that undeniable fact of being, is revealed as this omnipresent wholeness, that everything is, that everything takes place in and as, and you feel yourself as that. So you know yourself and increasingly experience yourself as already whole, already complete, already in the right place where you're meant to be, a fish made of water in the middle of the ocean, in a sense. And you feel a deepening sense of safety, of trust, of faith. In reality, you feel a sense of a securely attached relationship with reality. Not attached in the sense of grasping, just a sense of being able to relax into being nurtured and held, and letting go and letting God, letting go and allowing reality to be as it is, and trusting that it's taking you where you need to go, and it's taking all of us where we need to go, and it's fundamentally okay, even when it really doesn't look okay. And again, if things don't look okay, be available for that, be responsive to that. If there's a sincere calling in your heart to respond to suffering or ills in the culture, in the definable world, then by all means, please do that. Please do that. We absolutely need people responding to that. And we need more people responding to that with the level of spaciousness that is discovered, the level of wholeness and spaciousness and unconditional love and peace that is discovered through this type of spiritual engagement, inquiry, investigation that I'm describing. And yeah, I mean, you might be very surprised where this investigation leads. Yeah, I've been very surprised at the kind of meta-religious, meta-mythic openings that it's led to for me, which has really led me to deeply re-embrace my ancestral Christ-focused tradition, in a fresh way, in a way of, seeing it as another set of perspectives, another set of modes, seeing the inherent unpinned down ability, continuing to see that I cannot fundamentally say what Christ is, or what these practices are, what is happening, and yet Christ is a presence I can experience, just like my daughter is a presence I can experience. And this can actually open up more beauty and wonder. You could see the infinity of things. I can see the infinity of my daughter and the infinity of Christ, the quality of astonishment, the quality of this gorgeous mystery that's baked into these occurrences. There seems to be this fascinating way that nature emanates forth or emerges as these faces of God, faces of divinity, faces of nature, faces of being, archetypal and mythic and mythopoetic emanations and lenses and modes. And I personally find a great deal of heartwarming value and beauty and sanctification and purification and imagination and fascination in exploring those types of modes. So that's just one example of, surprises that might occur along the path. And yet, maybe it doesn't go that way for you at all. Maybe you stay in a realm that's much more bare bones, that's much more like just this devotion to the sound of the rain and the passing of the clouds and the rainbow in the sky, the giggles of the children, the feeling of warm bath water on your body, the luminosity of light on water, the interplay of all the many fullnesses of the sense fields. Maybe you just become a disciple of bare bones experience, and that is your flavor of liberation. Liberation will have a different flavor for every being, so it's good to be open to what it happens to be for you. So this has been a fairly long video, an exploration. I felt like unfurling a yarn and kind of exploring my own process, the cutting edge of my own investigation of reality. And the essential message that I'm delivering in this video is basically, this is here, check it out. There are beautiful things to be discovered through a very truthful, a very rigorously inquisitive exploration of what is here. Life is truly marvelous, truly incredible, heart-crackingly, sometimes devastatingly beautiful, poetic, trustworthy on the deepest level, I would say, loving, good, peaceful, in harmony with itself, paradoxically peaceful, even as it seems to weave through chaos at times. There is this ever unstained presence or beingness that we can discover through sensitive investigation of this now moment, the only moment we ever experience, as far as I can tell, which I would say is not so much a moment in time as it is a field of being, an astounding miracle of isness. And we can check it out. We can say, wow, we can return to infant mind. We can be, wow, like looking at this kaleidoscopic wonderment and being dazzled by it and letting it reveal its mysteries to us. It very much seems to have an inherent boundless intelligence, and it seems to have a propensity for revealing itself to itself when we start to earnestly look, earnestly pray, earnestly open ourselves to revelation. It seems to have a propensity for revealing itself to itself. So that's the message. And again, it's so like funny and paradoxical that it's almost like the more that this reveals itself to you, the less you know, and you reach a point where you can say, I really don't know anything in a profound sense. I can't say what anything is. I don't know what this is. And yet I'm intimate with it. I am it. I do know it by being it, and it is me, and I'm moving with it. It is dancing me, and I trust it, and it touches my heart. It brings me to tears. It brings me the laughter of my daughter. It brings me visions of Christ. It cracks my heart open. It evokes ancient feelings of viscerality, poetry, ineffable poignancy. It is just this simple nounness right here, and yet it is bottomless enchantment, bottomless lotus petals within lotus petals opening to reveal an infinite-sided jewel of pure mystery that is just intrinsically valuable, beyond valuable, intrinsically stunning, primordially innocent, able to puncture you to the heart, to the core, on the deepest levels that you didn't know existed. That is what is possible in this life. So thank you for listening. Thank you for considering, and take very good care, my friend. Peace, love, and blessings. Hallelujah. Amen.